Hello, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about beauty in the country of Colombia, where my parents are from, based on my experience and what I've seen. It's kind of interesting because even though my parents are from Colombia, South America, I was born and raised in the USA. So culturally, you know, I'm very much American. I feel American in every way, just about, except for that my parents are Colombian, and so that definitely has had a huge effect on me. People have asked me over the years, you know, where are you from? And so both of my parents were born in Colombia. My dad was born in Cali, Colombia, and my mom was born in Barranquilla, Colombia. And Barranquilla is famous because Shakira came out of Barranquilla and Sofia Vergara came out of Barranquilla. But both of my parents came to the USA, like I want to say around 1970. They were in their late teens, like I want to say like 19 years old. They actually met in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's where they met. My dad joined the U.S. Army. He learned, you know, the U.S. Army, they give you citizenship, they teach you English. So I was actually born in Texas when they were stationed there. So we moved around a lot, by the way, when I was little. But by the time I was 11, my dad had retired from the Army, and around the time I turned 12, we moved to Orlando, Florida. And so I was raised from the age of 12 here in Orlando, a suburb of Orlando. And now the doctors told my parents when I was very little, don't teach her Spanish, you're just going to confuse her. So they only spoke to me in English. So growing up, I only knew English and I only spoke English, although I had an ear for languages, having grown up hearing Spanish in the home, because my parents to each other always spoke in Spanish. So when I was 19 years old, I actually spent 4 months in Colombia approximately, and I learned so much Spanish, like more than I ever had learned in my life, I feel. It was kind of a sink or swim environment. My parents weren't with me while I was there. So, and then, you know, I also minored in Spanish at the University of Central Florida. Okay, so that's just some of my background. But while I was in Colombia for those 4 months, talk about culture shock. How important is beauty in Colombia? Beauty, it was everything in Colombia, everything. I never felt the pressure of being beautiful in the USA the way I felt it when I was in Colombia. First of all, the women on TV were all extremely gorgeous, perfect makeup, perfect physiques, perfect hair. Like growing up in the USA on the news, a lot of news anchors were average looking women. They were pretty, maybe, they were okay. And whether the news anchor was or was not gorgeous didn't matter, because they were talking about the news and that's not what was important. But in Colombia, it was such a shock to see like these gorgeous girls, and also they were also kind of dressed to show, you know, their cleavage and whatnot, showing a bit of, you know, tight figure, you know, just showing off their assets, so to speak. And so it was just completely different from what I was seeing in the USA. And I kind of feel, especially with social media and smartphones and more of globalization and everything, I feel like I've seen even the US news anchors have stepped up their game, and the women look more attractive than I ever saw them looking when I was growing up. It wasn't like that. Like now I feel like American news anchors actually try. But in Colombia, I was shocked. Like these women were gorgeous. Going to the supermarket, you had to look perfect. Like you had your high heels on. High heels, that's all that women wore when I was there when I was 19. And I came to Colombia wearing flip-flops, and they were like, oh no, that's only what the empleadas, you know, is what they call them. But it's essentially, it's the maids, because Colombia, there's not like a middle class, or at least there wasn't when I was there, unless things have changed. It's been about 6 years since I've been back, but it's kind of the haves and the have-nots. And so it was like only like the low class uses flip-flops. You need to be wearing tacones, those are high heels, and the fancy nice ones, you need to look sexy. It was, you need to look sexy. Like that is what is expected of you over there. And it was extremely important, to the point where they told me, oh yeah, like you don't even get a job if you aren't looking right. Like it's hard to find the job. So it was almost like a beauty contest for everything, getting jobs, just everywhere. It was like a big beauty contest. So I just remember being shocked by, like, even going to the supermarket, the bag girl who was like, you know, you go to the supermarket and the person bagging your groceries is like some teenage kid with braces. No, they had like a gorgeous girl bagging your groceries for you, and it made me feel so self-conscious. Like I didn't realize, like, it was like life or death over there is kind of how I felt. So yes, there is that side of American culture where beauty is very important. It is very important. I mean, we've got makeup stores and you've got, you know, the beauty culture on YouTube and all that. But I feel like in America, it's all good in the hood. Like, if you don't care about makeup and stuff, you can even go in a totally different direction and be into science and not even caring about that stuff. And it's still all good in the hood. It's like girl power. If you want to have a brain and focus on things that have nothing to do with beauty, that is so cool too. But when I went to Colombia, that wouldn't translate. Like, in their newspapers, when I would be reading the news, they would have a centerfold of a woman in a bikini. And that was the everyday newspaper. Here in the USA, well, first of all, newspapers have kind of gone away here in the USA now that everyone has their phone. Like, I don't even remember the last time I've seen a newspaper. But the newspapers were still big back when I was in like 2002. People were still reading newspapers. But if you would have seen an image of a woman in a bikini, that would never happen here in the US. That would be like degrading of a woman's body in the news. Like, it's just time and place. No, that doesn't happen here in the USA. So like women are not objectified to the degree that I experienced when I was in Colombia. That was really eye-opening for me. And my self-esteem, I remember it plummeted when I was over there. I remember the doctor telling me, don't come back to our country until you lose weight, because I was like 175 pounds. Here in the USA, I could find a girl who was heavy like me. But in Colombia, I was looking around and they didn't have as many fast food restaurants. And again, I feel like every time I go back to Colombia, I see more Western influence. I've seen more a rise in fast food restaurants whenever I go back to Colombia every other year. And then I've also seen a correlation in their waistlines with the more of the fast foods and, you know, convenient foods and all this stuff. So I find that interesting. Even so, women still take very good care of themselves more than an American woman. Like, it is more important. They really focus on that, and that is good in a way, like, to be healthy, but at the same time there needs to be balance, I think. So I don't know. I feel like you're allowed to be brainy and be woman power and all of this stuff in Colombia, but if you do it, you have to do it the way Wonder Woman does it, like looking hot while you're, you know, fighting for women's rights and all this, but you got to do it like with your lipstick on too. So that's just kind of how they roll. Popular beauty trends in Colombia, from what I saw, you know, plastic surgery is really popular here in the US, like Botox and all that stuff. But in Colombia, it was expected that you were gonna have that kind of surgery. It was very affordable, and you might think Colombia, oh, poor country, third world country. No. They made sure to save their money, or they made it somehow affordable for the everyday Joe. I guess, again, it's like the haves and the have-nots. But like, you were gonna be fixing your face like over there. And so when I went to Colombia, the reason I was there for so long, I was actually having my underbite corrected, because I guess my insurance in the US was considering it to be cosmetic, but it was actually functional. Like, nobody wants to have an underbite. I don't know. I guess our insurance in the US wasn't that great. For some reason, it didn't cover as much of the surgery as my dad would have wanted. Or my dad was like, let's just send you to Colombia. They have great cosmetic doctors over there. Because, you know, watching the beauty pageants, Colombia was always like top 5. Gonna almost win the Miss Universe pageant. Although now Miss Universe pageant, I don't know if it even exists anymore. But I mean, growing up, Miss Colombia was always like one of the top girls, and it was extreme. That's another thing. Beauty pageants are extremely important. Like, they set aside a whole month to celebrate in November. Like, it meant everything. Here in the USA, it was kind of like, oh, it was like a little novelty thing to watch the Miss Universe pageant, where, you know, like nobody really cares about beauty pageants, I feel, here in the USA. It's like there's beautiful girls everywhere, so what? You know, like, but in Colombia, you wanted to be Miss Colombia. Like, you aspired for that. It was just a bigger deal. And so I really feel like those were trends in Colombia that were just very different from here in the USA. But going back to my jaw thing, you know, I was there getting my underbite corrected because it was cheaper for us over in Colombia. But what's interesting is I was doing that like for functionality of my job, but I went to a party in Colombia, and I remember there was a huge circle of girls, and I just remember at one point at this party, one of the girls was like, okay, let's talk about all the cosmetic procedures we've all had done. And so I remember we all went around the circle, and one girl was like, oh, I've had my bust done, oh, I've had my butt done, oh, I've had my nose done, oh, I had this did or that did. And then when it got to me, I was like, oh, I'm having my jaw corrected. And like, I felt like I had something to contribute to the conversation. Like, God forbid I didn't have a procedure to talk about, because thankfully I had something, because you wouldn't have fit in socially if you weren't like obsessed with changing or fixing or enhancing something about you, your lips or whatever. So I thought that that was really interesting. When I think of famous popular beauty icons in Colombian culture, obviously Sofia Vergara comes to mind. Growing up, Sofia Vergara, she has like lighter features. Like, I feel like I look like a typical, stereotypical, average Colombian woman. But Sofia Vergara was considered exotic while I was growing up because she had like lighter hair. I want to say like her hair was even somewhat like a sandy blonde color naturally while she was growing up. So it was like, ooh, you know, maybe she had some European in her or something. So like that. Shakira was another super popular Colombian beauty when I was growing up. And you know, I knew about Shakira before she became popular in the USA. She was popular, like I knew of her Spanish music, and I just used to watch her on the Spanish channels. And she used to have jet black hair and jet black eyes, and she was considered very beautiful by Colombian standards. I don't know, she had like this nice fair skin, and she was just really beautiful. Sexy, honestly. That is super important in Colombian culture, that you are sexy. Like they love their curvy women. They want you thin and curvy. That is the icon. So I would say definitely that while I was young, like middle school, early high school, before they even became popular. Of course, when they became popular in the US, it was like, of course they would. You know, of all the people in Colombia, those girls were very driven, and we knew, like, all our family, like I remember we all celebrated them like, oh, the Colombians made it in American culture. So when I think about women in Colombia and where they fit into society, I felt like they were allowed to be intelligent and smart and all that, but if they were gonna do that, they had to do it in a gorgeous, sexy, beautiful type way. Like, you were gonna be the Latina Barbie doctor if you were gonna be a doctor. Like, there was no just a regular doctor who cared about doctor things. No, you were also gonna have to add beauty queen to your background there, or that was gonna have to be a part of your life, just a part of your life. And here in America, I feel like there's a lot less pressure to be gorgeous. You know, it's not so much about your physical appearance. And I remember asking men in Colombia, what do you think about American women as far as American beauty goes? Do you look at them and think that they're gorgeous? And they were like, but this one guy told me, he goes, when I think of American women, I think of frumpy women. Like, I was like, what? He's like, they don't take care of themselves. And I was thinking, he's kind of right. They don't really care that much. Like I'm used to seeing like somebody not completely put together. Even myself, like there's probably some frizz. Oh no. In Colombia, I felt like they really took their time to like perfect everything. I kind of liked that imperfect look. I don't know, I guess that was just one person's experience or view, but In the USA, it's a big melting pot. You're going to see all types of people and all types of... But women are definitely valued in Colombian society too. I mean, they are the mothers, they are the sisters, they are the friends, they are the fun, they are the love. But they are beautiful and they love that. And they're passionate about it. And I don't think that they'll apologize for it at all. Like, they're very proud of it and they love it and they're not ashamed of it. And I appreciate that about them. And I do, like, I love that about the Colombian woman. But it is a lot of pressure, like, having grown up in the US, like, if I wanted to be like them, like, I would feel a lot of pressure. And I do, there are parts of me that aspire kind of to be like that, but I don't know if I could be that perfect. I don't know. My husband tells me I'm beautiful, and so I do my best to try to make myself look as attractive as possible, you know, within reason. But at the same time, if I don't look perfect all the time, that's okay too for me. And maybe that's the American girl talking in me, I don't know. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it. Share this video with someone who you think might find it interesting. And please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Alright, so thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.